Dark Souls can be described in many ways, but it certainly is no puzzle. And yet, I recently played a puzzle game that made me feel like a Hollow, dueling with gigantic bosses with nothing but a club in hand, failing countless times but persevering, and eventually coming out victorious. And the game's name? Magic Cube. This tiny 2.5 megabyte Sokoban platformer made me struggle as early as on the second level. Just like the game itself, levels are very small and minimalistic, keeping only the necessary elements for the puzzle to work, while the player is limited to simple movement with a jump, the ability to push boxes, and a spell that creates a yellow box. The goal is quite simple as well, just bring that yellow box onto the pedestal. That's it. Later levels introduce a few more mechanics, but overall, your options are very limited, levels are tiny, and yet every single one of them had me scratching my head. Let me give you an example of one of the later levels to paint a better picture. Once again, it looks quite simple at a first glance, and you might be wondering how can a level as small as that truly challenge a player? Well, let's go over it. We're trying to place a yellow box on the pedestal, and since for it to materialize, our spell has to hit a wall or another box, and since we can't just create it on the same tile as we stand on, we either need to have a box here to cast a spell from, or we have to be all the way to the left. The latter seems to be more reasonable, as we don't really have a method of lifting the gray box. So then, how do we get up here? We'll clearly need to have a yellow box here to climb higher, but then we can't make the jump to that side to begin with. We should probably try using the gray box, but the hole at the end renders it useless. We can still use the yellow box on top of it to climb up, but doing so removes it from the part where we need it most. So pushing the gray box into the hole doesn't seem to be the answer. We could try leaving it here, as that would give us the necessary height to jump onto the other side, but how do we get there from here? Previously, we only managed to get up on the platform thanks to the gray box, but now it blocks us from proceeding, and pushing it further only makes it fall into the hole. We could try to use yellow instead, but now we can't really place it anywhere that would help us get up. But maybe we could do that before we pushed the gray box. We could cast the yellow onto the platform for it to fall in the ground where we can climb on it. Thing is, it needs to be separated from the gray box, so we can push one while leaving the other for our escape. So the only way to do that is to have the gray here, cast yellow to the right, then push gray where we need it to be, and while we still cannot get to the central platform from the yellow box, and we can't pull it closer, we can cast another yellow against the platform from this yellow, then cast it to the left where we needed it, use our prepared gray as a stepping stone, get all the way to the top, and then from here we can finally cast the yellow box onto the pedestal. Voila! Not bad, huh? For many puzzle games, something of this caliber could be the final level. For Magic Cube, this is level 3. As in, this is the third level you see in this game after being taught the controls in the prologue. And yeah, it gets better. Personally, I find it refreshing that to solve a puzzle, you actually have to think for once. The solution is not an obvious sequence of steps that you can just do instinctively. And just doing whatever it seems like the game wants you to do doesn't get you far, and you have to resort to other approaches. Like figuring out what state the level should be in for you to solve it, and then going backwards from there. Or trying to get to the solution and, upon encountering an obstacle or a problem with the approach, figuring out how to work around it and how to incorporate that into your ongoing solution. Rinse and repeat. Usually games don't put more than one obstacle like that in a single puzzle, as even with 2 twists it becomes difficult to keep track of what should be done, let alone the fact that a solution to one will most likely break the other. But Magic Cube doesn't pull its punches, and is not afraid to change seemingly contradictory solution prerequisites. And to me, it's mind-blowing how so much nuance could fit into such tiny, seemingly unsolvable levels, and how there could be such evasive, yet elegant solutions to them all. The developer of this game is a solo dev from Japan who just really likes puzzles. In an interview, he says that for him the 50 best puzzles are far better than 100 okay ones. And so he spent over a year refining the game and making sure that each level feels distinct and deliberate in the challenges it poses to the player. And I think he succeeded. The game is brutally difficult, but at the same time, finally coming up with a working solution to a level you were stuck on feels absolutely ecstatic, and nothing really compares. I didn't want to rob you of that experience, so I avoided showing any solution elements to later levels, and I highly recommend that you give them a go. As one of the Steam reviews said, Magicube is the best 2 MB that I own. With its low cost and availability of an earlier free version on itch.io, you really have no excuse for not trying it out. Just comment down below which level you lost your humanity on. Thanks for watching. My next video will most likely be on the Elden Ring DLC, but afterwards I'm planning on doing a longer video on what makes a good puzzle game. So if that is something that you might be interested in, consider subscribing. Thanks, and see you in the next one.